Everybody, I'm Dean Jackson.
I'm Joe Polish. Basically, okay, we're here at Piranha Marketing headquarters, and this is a impromptu, I guess, I Love Marketing Meetup group. We did not have one scheduled this week because Kevin didn't schedule one. And we just did earlier in the week a Platinum 2.0 meeting, and so it was a busy week, a lot of stuff going on. And so, but I said, you know, Dean Jackson's in town, and we have meetup groups all over the world, and we've got literally tens of thousands of listeners to I Love Marketing, and you're here.
And here we are.
So why not do a a Q&A session? So, like literally, this was only sent out to, I guess, people that were already members, and it didn't, there's no formal invitation thing. I did a post on Facebook around noon or something today.
But is this the crew that comes every Thursday night right here? You guys have all
Some, not
Mostly,
everybody.
I'm the substitute for Jerry Levinson.
Okay.
So.
Ah.
I'm Matt
All right.
Levinson.
Yeah.
So is anybody here? Is this anybody's first meeting here? Your first meeting here? Okay.
In you too. So two of you?
Yeah.
Okay. And you gals, you need to kind of zip it, right? Just cool.
Guys are
Okay.
troublemakers.
And Amber, you've never been to a I Love
No,
Marketing.
I'm so excited.
Okay, good. So basically, so lay down some ground rules for
All
everyone.
right. So we've got the timer going. We're going to do 2 episodes tonight of I Love Marketing, and so what I thought we'd do in the first episode is just do Q&A. Whatever you guys want to talk about. We talk about the 8 profit activators. We could talk about focus. We could talk about anything you guys want to talk about. And so we're gonna let you guys lead us where you wanna go there.
Yeah. How many of you in the room were at Platinum? Okay, cool. Yeah. What'd you think?
Right.
What was your takeaways? Let's start with that because you spent 2 days with us. It was a pretty good meeting. What'd you get out of it?
Where do I start? I mean, it was a lot. I think what the immediate thing that I think of is referrals.
Yeah.
And and what Dean did with the whole outline of referrals was huge for me.
Orchestrated versus passive.
Yeah, orchestrative, because I've not been orchestrative enough in terms of, especially with my type of business. It's mostly referrals, but I haven't been participant. I've been passive.
Right.
For the
They
most
come
part.
to you. You get referrals.
Yeah, I get them, and I'm cool with that. But I think, with orchestrated referrals, though, you get the kind of clients you want.
That's it. Exactly.
And there's some clients I just don't want. I just don't want them, and they call me up all the time. And the orchestrative thing, I can get the clients I want, and that's huge for me. That was a huge takeaway.
Yeah.
Let's pause 1 second. I just want to move this. Alex is picking up some extra noise.
We don't
Oh, that's
pause-
fine.
we
But
don't
let's
pause
keep it
anything.
going.
We just go.
Yeah, just roll with
We
it.
just
It's
roll.
fine. It's
Well,
completely
can I
fine.
move that chair?
That's okay.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
just go. I mean, this is
You do what you need to do.
freaking backstage.
We keep it real. We keep it real. And I don't know.
What'd you get out of it, Renee?
Fancy.
Well, from just observing the event and, for people, I guess, who are interested in facilitating, a seminar or an event, I think that it's really smart to crowdsource and to create your content from the audience, sharing. I think it makes things more engaging because the people are participating and kind of created that contest model of, who shared the most value. And
Right.
I think it's very smart way of doing that.
Yeah, and if anyone here actually wants to give like a 5-minute speech on an idea that's worth like a fortune, we might be able to pull one of those off. Because
That'd be great.
one of the things we did do at the, I just started playing around with this, and I actually think I'm onto something. Because, TED does a really great job. How many of you watch TED videos?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping I can speak at TED sometime. Peter Diamandis sent an email I got a couple emails back and forth with Chris Anderson about speaking at the next TED on the topic of his Selling Evil. And, like even Ignite Phoenix, which any of you have ever been to the Ignite things that was started by Tim O'Reilly. They have Ignite Phoenix in different parts of the country, and they do these 5-minute presentations, and they're pretty cool. And the tagline for TED is ideas worth spreading. I actually want ideas worth using. So you can actually use them in your business, because it's interesting to think of really cool stuff, and there's like a lot of amazing things that are like, wow, I'd never thought of things that way. But I actually want best practices that you can put into use in a business. And so at the last 25K meeting, I started a 10-minute talks where every person talks about a best practice that they're using in their business that's worth at least $250,000 to them, so that every minute is worth $25,000. And so then we tried this for $10,000 ideas at the last Platinum meeting, and we just started it. I mean, so right now it's just kind of like, I want to kind of see how it plays out, but I think it worked really well. And so in the New York 25K meeting that I'm doing, I'm going to have like a handful of people give 10-minute talks, and I got a confirmation yesterday. Steve Forbes is coming, and Ray Cruz, all these crazy people. So I think the 10-minute talks, if we can develop those. So anyway, the reason I bring that up is in future meetup groups, we're actually going to do some of those. We're going to take all of you, if you ever want to think about what's the best thing that you're currently doing, have done in your business. If you're a copywriter, if you've got some technique, something that has been worth at least, we'll define a dollar figure and get up and share it in a way that everyone could use it. I think these meetings would become incredibly, valuable. So starting with that, in less than 30 seconds, what's something you've done that's been worth $250,000?
Putting my own money on other people, putting my money on the line to help other people, knowing, because I know that I can do that.
Oh, so producing results in
producing
advance.
results in advance.
Well, okay, so we've talked
We
about
said
that on
30
episodes, but since people like Pat never listen to them,
He
could
never
you
listens
actually,
at all.
could you actually share what that means? Because actually, I think that's a really great way to think about how to package and present your business.
Sure. I mean, one of the questions that we had today when we were recording the other episode was, how do you build credibility? How can you get? It was for a new business. Somebody was saying, how do you get build social proof? How do you get credibility? And the answer that we both gave was that you use your own confidence and a really strong guarantee. And any time that you can turn whatever it is you do into something, especially if it's a results-getting thing, if you can turn it into where you're the one taking the risk on somebody else getting the result that you can provide for them, that's like a turbo booster for your business. And so what we've done for almost 2 years now, for years we've had a company called Money Making Websites, where we do websites for real estate agents and mortgage brokers. And the way now that we do the website model is that we give people the website. We take them through a whole training program, 90-day training program on exactly how to use it. They don't pay anything to go through the program, and only after the 90 days is up do they decide whether it's something that they want to continue with. They'll either have done their first transaction, or they've got a pipeline of people that they're working with, or things are already happening and they're encouraged by what's happening. And if they are, they can choose to continue and pay $99 a month, and then we charge $1,500 when they do their first transaction. But it's literally paying for itself. That's the whole model that we use, and it's been now effortless to get people to start to take the first step. Because before, anytime you're selling anything like that's a multi-step process, people who are going to put money up front, they want to know how everything works ahead of time. You have to take them on a tour of the site, show them how everything works, and they want to maybe talk to some people who are already using the site, building all that credibility. People have to have confidence that it's going to work. So why not take that confidence and use your own confidence and say, listen, I'm going to give it to you. And it's not, I pay money literally to give people the site. We have to pay to have the site built. We pay to have for the domain name. I set up their autoresponder accounts, pay virtual assistants to preload all of their Gmail accounts and their AdWords account, get the whole thing going. We have someone on staff who runs the whole training program, so it's not, it's a significant investment in taking people through this, but I know that it works, and I know that people get results and people stay with us for years and years and years and years.
How often does it go bad?
About 30% of the people who start don't ever kind of get going. They don't, it's not that the website doesn't work, it's that in any group of people, you're gonna find people who just don't do anything.
Well, see, the
And that's
marketing always
okay.
works.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
they don't work the marketing. They
That's
don't-
exactly
yeah.
right, yeah. So it was very cool. I mean, we had, so a few months ago, we had our very first class that had been graduated for a full year. And, I went back and looked at, interviewed them, got all of their numbers for the first year, and saw, they averaged between, I think on the low end it was 7 times ROI, on the high end was 34 times ROI for every dollar that they spent on bringing traffic to the website. And it showed exactly how everything worked. So it was really kind of a cool process.
So if someone has a business that they can't see an application of that, where wouldn't this sort of model work?
Well, I think that if you can think about kind of reallocating money that you would use as a cost of acquiring a new customer, is take that money and invest that money in just getting them the result.
Mhm.
Rather than, you know what I mean? If you're saying, like, let's say that you've got a product that costs $1,500 and you're willing to spend, you would cheerfully spend $500 to acquire a new customer for that $1,500 product. So why not take that $500 and invest that in getting the result for somebody?
Right.
And it's just such a clean way. Like, it feels good too, because we have so many people that are just so thankful that somebody would do this for them, because
Right.
it's so much, the inspiration for it, and we call it Project Cyrus, and the inspiration for it was Cyrus McCormick, who's the guy who invented the reaper in the 1800s, and it was the tool that mechanized farming. And
Yeah, Blue
made
Oyster
it-
Cult even used it in a song.
Did they really? Perfect.
So, and those of you that were not born, like,
Oh, so funny.
just
Yeah.
look up the Will Ferrell one with.
There needs more
with
cowbell.
More cowbell. That
Yeah.
one, cowbell was-
And so what Cyrus figured out and realized was that the machine was great for the farmers, but none of them could afford it because it was expensive. And the catch-22 was that having the machine would help them make more money, but they needed the money to get the machine. And his whole thing was, well, why, it's better that I should wait for the money than you should wait for the machine that you need. And so he gave the reaper to the farmers, let them use it for the harvest, and pay him after the harvest for the machine. And that's what set it on fire.
So it's like the Reaper Man, if you had to
The
repossess
reaper
it.
man, that's exactly right.
How often did they go bad for him? Does he say
I
in the
don't know.
book?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay, so does anyone see that as an application to their business on how they can use it? Any ideas on that? Or any questions you would have related to that where you're like, well, I still don't know how I can make it work?
Yeah.
Well, what if your business doesn't have a definitive result? I mean, for real estate or whatnot, there's a number amount,
Mhm.
it worked. But what if for what I do, I'm a life coach, and it's not really, I'm not guaranteeing you'll get a job or
Mhm.
guaranteeing something. So how could I use it
Yep.
in that context?
What are you helping people do?
I mean, I'm helping people figure out a lot of times what it is that they want to do.
Uh-huh.
Building the confidence to go after it, creating a game plan to go after it,
Uh-huh.
defining their personal brand, marketing themselves in the world.
How long do you typically work with someone?
Usually 2 to 3 months.
It's
That's
just a 2 or 3 month period.
I
And
kinda
how often
get
do you
them-
talk to them?
like once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on the client. But it's kind of like a lot of times my clients are usually
finishing college, and so they don't have a lot of money
Mhm.
to do something like that long term. So it's kind of like I get them in the right mindset, get them in a new pattern, get them in a daily practice of things that they need to do, and then kind of send them on their way. So that's, for me, it's kind of a hard thing.
Is the first call that you do, or the first couple of calls that you do with people, are you kind of exploring and kind of setting the stage of what they actually want to accomplish, and then the rest of the time you're helping them get what they want? Is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. The first time I meet with somebody, it's a complimentary meeting. They call it a coffee date kind of a thing.
Yeah, right.
So we kind of make sure we want to work together. And then from there, the very first time that we meet, we kind of do these exercises that give us a bird's eye view of their life and where the deficiencies are, and kind of where we need to zero in and focus and see what's going
Right.
on, and kind of break it down into
So you're
bite-sized
already
pieces.
kind of, I mean, you're already starting with it's free to have the first conversation.
Yes.
I mean, that's all part of it. The whole thing about doing this is to make it effortless for people to start. You know, if they don't know what coaching is, or they don't know what it's about, but they've got to write a check before they even ever talk to you, they're going to want to maybe talk to other people who they got to kind of get everything straight in their mind that this is going to work. But if they can talk to you and have an experience of it before they actually pay, they're going to get a good sense that that's what of what it's about. So you are doing it in a lot
I got
of
that
ways,
from
right?
you guys.
With the free, yeah.
That's my
I mean-
mafia offer, by the way.
Right, and that's the thing,
Which
and
is good.
that's good for you, because it does make it effortless, and you know, it's very, you know, it's just about getting people engaged, you know, in a bigger future.
Is there a way to take it a step further, though, kind of in the way you do it?
Well, if you could somehow
Guarantee
create a
the result.
utility, if you can create a
Yeah.
utility or a tool or something that you can charge them for, I don't know if there's like some sort of, you know, I mean, if you think about companies that do this, you know, in good and bad ways, you know, McDonald's, if you can get, you know, the kids coming to the playground, so you can, you know, serve them, you know, toxic, poisonous food, but they like the playground, and they start that early on, then by the time, you know, it infiltrates their system, they're gonna be eating that shit for the rest of their life, hopefully, according to McDonald's. So, you know, so there's all kinds of models of what you can offer as whatever would be your value. I mean, like one of the things that's been an interesting conversation me and Dean have had, mostly not recorded, but you were like thinking, all right, what am I gonna say?
Oh no, what is he gonna say?
So,
You said that was just between you and I.
I taught, yeah, I taught, you know, so many carpet cleaners, as an example, how to better do direct mail, how to advertise in newspapers, Valpak type coupons, yellow pages. I mean, God knows how many millions of dollars the yellow pages, you know, back probably from 1997 it probably started, is about the year that every major city with a phone book had one or multiple versions of one of my ads running in it with free recorded messages in multiple different industries. And so we would teach these cleaners how to go out and advertise. And it's funny too, because you know, I never got a penny from the yellow pages. As a matter of fact, not only did I not get a thanks, they were like kind of hostile because they hated any ads that looked different than everyone else, because they all wanted their ads, you know, they didn't like an ad that said free recorded message, you know, because that would look, you know, they want everything to look identical, because that's, you know, it's easy to sell a logo and, you know, a white space than it is to construct effective ads. But, you know, we would teach people how to do direct mail. Postal Service would make all that, you know. So the conversation we've had is like, Dean was like, you know, grab a seat anyway. Welcome. You know, Dean was like, well, you know, we've taught them how to go out with coaching. The challenge is, like, you know, for years we would teach people marketing strategies that we would sell them in some cases for a few $100s, and sometimes they'd buy like a, you know, a $50 product or a $29 interview, and once you got it, they got it. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the magic trick. And you could have sold somebody something that made them hundreds of thousands of dollars, save their business, they would still drop out of your coaching program. Or they would still opt out of your advice giving thing because they kind of got it. But they would still pay their cable bill,
Yeah.
you know, which isn't anywhere near as useful as like, you know, signing up for like a coaching program or something.
That was the
But-
whole thing about like the electric, that was the aha. Nobody ever calls up the electric company and says, you know what, I got it. I really appreciate everything. I'm gonna be okay now. I think I can, I'm just
they'll-
gonna take what I got and kind of go.
And they'll pay for abuse and they won't drop out. But we can literally change people's lives in this business. They're like, you know, 2 months later, go fuck yourself. You know, it's like, what the hell? It's sorry for the. I'm going to say that a lot though throughout the night. But and I won't. By the way, speaking of just politically incorrect things, there's this company. What's the name of the company?
Some e-cards.
Some e-cards. I actually bought this thing and then it says, "When work feels overwhelming, remember that you're going to die." Okay. And so I love that. I mean, it just really warms my heart. So basically, you know, if you're in a business where you can actually plug them into something that they're going to continue to use, like Dean has, you know, see, he has the websites. He has a database system that does all the follow-up for his realtors. Use his system?
Yeah.
Okay. What does it cost?
It's $99 a month.
Yep.
And $1,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do they pay the
But
$1,500?
that's, weren't you here just a few minutes ago
Yeah.
when I was explaining how that works? They pay the $1,500 when they do their first transaction. So it's only after that they get the result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing to think about, I think like one of the ways I created a free room of carpet cleaning for carpet cleaners, like, is I was listening. First off, I had started really studying direct response marketing, starting with Gary Halbert, and I was, you know, learning the whole can and clone yourself and how to position yourself with powerful language and making, you know, powerful offers. And I kind of had it in my mind that I didn't want to do something the same as like, you know, every other carpet cleaner with free estimates. Quit talking to her, will you? You need to pay. And so I can see through my ears, by the way. And so I was listening to a Jay Abraham boot camp from Australia that Jay Abraham sent to me. Like I opted in. He used to do some really clever stuff.
Well, he
does
does. Did you go to any of his events?
Never went to an event.
Oh, okay, so I went to when he had, you know, the $5,000 event, that was a lot of money. Like in 1992,
yeah.
that was a lot of money for something. It wasn't common to have a $5,000 seminar. But when you called, you know, when you enroll, he would send you this huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing.
Like, it was overwhelming.
In the same way, where like if you can actually afford to blow people away in the beginning, cough up some, you know, good money to actually make a theatrical
And these
impression.
things looked like I remember the first thing that he said was like the Abraham method. It was like this blue, you know, it was a booklet, 11 by 17, folded with, you know, white embossed the Abraham method on there. It was just like,
It was nice.
yeah, he felt like it was something. I mean, it made an impression.
Right. So
I still have those. Like, you know, here like 20 years later, and you still have this this Abraham method. Yeah.
Well, so my point is like, so he sends this thing, and I'm listening to it, and he tells a story about there's two carpet cleaners, partners that actually were struggling, and they were trying to figure out how to make their business work, and they wanted to hire him, and he was $3,000 an hour, right? So they basically couldn't afford to hire him for an hour, so they scraped up $2,000 and they hired him for 45 minutes. And in 45 minutes, he basically taught them the concept of lifetime value of a client. You know, how much can you afford to spend to acquire someone until you know what they're worth? And so, you know, he asked some questions, you know, what's your average client worth, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so what he recommended to them was to do a free room, a free house, an entire house of carpet cleaning, and to go and offer free houses of carpet cleaning in order to impress somebody so that they
Set them
would,
up for next
yeah,
time.
so that they would, you know, do it again next time, and also referrals. And so what these two guys did was they went out for a month and they went to church fairs, trade shows, county fairs, and they would knock on doors. and they would actually ask people, if they could just clean their whole house, no cost, no risk. We'll clean it, if you like it, just hire us, when you have to clean your carpets again. And the way they actually made money that month was off tips. People would give them tips, and they would recommend them to their neighbors and stuff. And they built a $100,000 a year carpet cleaning company using this. Now, I didn't know if any of this was true, but it sounded pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, but I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, I own the carpet cleaning business, and I know how freaking hard it is to clean carpets. And I was simultaneously reading Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, which is a great book, if you've never read it. And Robert is friends, we're both friends with Robert now. He lives here in Tempe.
You're getting our guest list for, like, I don't know why we haven't had Jay on I Love Marketing yet, or why we haven't had.
He's agreed to do it.
Yeah, I
I
know.
just haven't, yeah, okay,
Okay.
we'll get Jay on. We'll get Jay, we'll do another. So basically, I was reading Influence, and how many of you have read Influence by Robert Cialdini? Great book. And one of his new books is the book Yes, the 50 scientific ways to get people to say yes or whatever. It's really good. But basically, he tells the story of reciprocity in the Hare Krishners. Do you remember the Hare Krishna story in the airport? Has anyone,
Yes.
has everyone heard that?
Yes.
You have, so
Yeah.
has anyone not heard it? Okay, well, I'll tell it real quickly then, because you've heard it before. So they would study in Influence, he would study con artists and salespeople and preachers and all kinds of different groups of people that were in the compliance field that would get people to comply and get them to do stuff. So a long time ago, before 9/11, they were allowed to, people were allowed to ask for donations in airports and things like that. And the Hare Krishners first started off wearing, their gear, like gear, like it's a uniform. Their gear. Their
Their
fancy
robes,
little
yeah.
bling in them. So basically, they started wearing just regular clothes because people would spot them and the donations were going down. And so what they would use is they would typically have a female Hare Krishna who would have little plastic flowers, and they would, basically when people were coming through the airport, they would go up to them and they'd go to the collar of the person and say, I'd like to, give you this flower. And what he found, they would observe them from a distance, is people would, typically not say no. They would let them put the flower on the collar, and then they would, step back, and then the lady would say, would you please give a donation? And the people, it was more uncomfortable for people to give a flower, a gift that they didn't even want, back to the person than just reach in their pocket and pull out $1 or two.
Right.
And so they would this is how they would get all these donations, and then the people would walk away. And what was funny about it is how the people were so concerned of how socially they were perceived as. And so they would, they would walk away, and as soon as they were out of view of the Hare Krishna, they would throw the flower in the trash. And they'd get rid of it, and they're done. They would go off to their flight. And then about every hour, they would, the Hare Krishnas would go to the trash can, get out all the flowers, and do it all over again. Right? And so this went on and on. And what he found is that when you give somebody a gift that they don't even want, they still want to reciprocate. So what do you do if you actually can give somebody something that they actually want in an environment where it makes sense for them to buy more from you if they actually like the gift? And so I took a combination of Jay Abraham's whole house and the whole reciprocity thing, and I was like, let me offer people a free room of carpet cleaning up to not a sample, because there was one company that sold equipment, and it was like a dry cleaning method. There's no such thing as dry cleaning carpet, by the way. It's all marketing nonsense. But you would tape off like a little square in the carpet with like tape, and then you'd clean this square, and then you'd pull it up, and there'd be this nice clean square. But I thought that's kind of lame, because you're forcing the person. It's like tattooing somebody and saying, would you like me to fill in the rest?
Finish the rest.
So it's like, I was like, how do I legitimately give somebody a gift? And so when I first started doing a free room of carpet cleaning, it literally cost me money. I mean, it would take me, I'd have to drive there, and I was doing this stuff myself. And then I'd put on my, carpet audit performance and do all that stuff. But if I gave them a free room of carpet cleaning and totally instilled reciprocity, it cost me money. Some people would not get more additional cleaning, but most people did. And if I targeted it after homeowners, it actually worked. And so to this day, no one has ever been able to come up with a better offer of cleaning a carpet than a free room of carpet cleaning and a carpet audit. And it's generated millions of dollars. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars for cleaners. And to this day, some of the top cleaning companies in the world, that's how they generate business. That's the offer they make. But that's a free offer. That's my version of kind of like what you're talking about. And so if you can come up with any way that you can, offer value first, as a matter of fact, our whole model of I Love Marketing is predicated on this. It costs us money to have a website. It costs us money to videotape this stuff. It takes our time. We put all this information out for people for free. The vast majority of people are never going to buy anything from us, but every once in a while someone will. And as we continue to build this following, we will acquire clients. We'll do stuff like that. And so I think every business should have, if nothing else, at least be giving away really good education and really good valuable stuff, because people will at least like you for that. And that might buy you something once in a while.
Right.
All right, I'm done.
So,
I've
does that help?
Yeah, it does. I have one more question, kind of what you said about sending a really cool box out or something
Yeah.
like that. Do you think it would be as effective to give something away online, or do you think it's the physical thing is still much more effective?
Both.
Yeah, both. Exactly. But I think, the thing is that there's something to be said for having something in your hand.
I'll tell you this,
It
one-
really is. Nobody's going to
Yeah.
curl up with a good email.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
Yeah, that virtual kitten that I sent you just didn't go anywhere. But like one thing I learned is that when you offer bonuses to people, what a lot of information marketers do, if they sell a course on like how to make money, I don't know, pick a method of making money, or how to, save money on taxes, and you're going to give them a bonus, and they're going to give you, a bonus, interview on, with this tax expert, and people send relevant things, but like if you look at Sports Illustrated with the swimsuit edition, it's a magazine, but it's really not a sports magazine. It's women. And you look at Time magazine that used to do the free clock radios and that sort of stuff. It's a non-relevant reason. And so I started thinking a lot about non-relevant gifts. And one of the ways that I got sales to stick and with a lot of different clients is if they were to sell something, you send like fairy tale brownies. Elaine, who owns fairy tale brownies here locally, I've sent out tons of brownies to people, and we have these, Piranha Marketing keepsake boxes that we used to use. I send less of it now because I've interviewed so many fitness people, and I don't eat gluten that it's like I don't eat brownies. They're great gifts though, and the thing is if someone buys your stuff and you're like a how-to person, and you want people to get value, if I can get them to consume food, it's a lot harder for them to like not appreciate what we're selling, and it reduces refunds. Because if someone gobbles up and consumes anything from you, really hard to take it back. So whatever business you're in, if you can manufacture a way, if it's going to take 6 months for them to get a result, get them to consume something. Like something they can pour down their throat, spray on their body, put on their hair, a gift certificate to go get a pedicure, go to the movies, anything that you can get your clientele or prospects to consume, freaking figure out what that is, because that in and of itself may have nothing to do with what you sell, but it instills reciprocity. It allows them to get some sort of value, and then they appreciate you for it. So there's lots of ways you can use that. All right, so question. Who has a really awesome question for Dean, because he's smarter than me?
I do.
Yes.
So I've got this JV that I can't get off the ground. He's invented this massive software program for dentists, because the typical dentist has a software program to control their office, and it has generally about 20, maybe 30 reports. Very basic general reports, right? So he's created this massive 250 report program that they can zero down in on anything they want in their business. So his problem is retention. He sells it to dentists, and about 6 to 8 months down the road, they're dropping off.
Right.
And
Because they're feeling overwhelmed.
They're feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, because they don't use 250, they don't even use 25 of the reports.
Right. But it's like going into a...
And it's a source of frustration every time they open it up and look at it.
Right. And it's kind of like going into a Vegas buffet.
Right.
there's just too much,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You can't eat it all. And it wasn't meant to be for everybody. So I know exactly what they need.
Tell me.
Well, I mean, the dentist, I know exactly, each dentist needs a different set of reports.
Uh-huh.
So I can drill down in and just go, okay, dentist A needs, 17 reports, dentist B needs 14 reports,
Right.
dentist C needs 38 reports.
Right.
I know how to do that.
Uh-huh.
And I just can't figure out how to do that. So you're telling me that I should just like get these guys on the phone.
Get which guy's on the phone?
All the dentists out there
Okay.
that have bought this,
Uh-huh.
just do a 90-day.
Well, maybe that, I mean, is it sold on a continuity basis? Is it sold on a monthly?
So on a monthly basis,
Okay,
sometimes a
monthly
yearly
contract.
contract
Okay.
is cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can it be sold in modules? Like, for instance, like if you wanted to, I mean, I might get this completely wrong, but say for instance there was 250 things that the software can do if it was, say, online, like it was an
Right.
online thing, and they only needed 5 of them.
Right.
Well, you could say, okay, well, you're gonna pay for X so you can utilize these 5 reports or whatever, but you would have like a lock, like a little padlock next to all the 250. So every time they go to the site to log in, they can see, they go in, they can see which ones are open for them, but all these other things are locked, so it's always taunting them. You can't get in there until you pay for that access. And see, here's the thing. The businesses that are gonna make the most money and do make the most money today and in modern life where everything is overwhelming, there's so much information and people are mired in complexity, are the ones that bring simplicity to the complexity that exists in everyone's life. And I think what Apple did compared to other computers is that they made things simple. The remote controls, like you take an iPhone, I mean, you're talking, there is tons of complexity behind the glass. I mean, millions of dollars of development but there's a button, there's a button, and then, it's like, it's simple. And you look at Apple computers, everything about it appears simple, and the user face appears simple. So part of it is not that it doesn't do all these wonderful things, but I mean, I hate remote controls that you just hold it and you're like, what the hell? If there's only 6 buttons that I'm ever gonna use,
Right.
Why do I want 24? It's just stupid. And so with the report things, it may be awesome that it does all this stuff, but I think, to a overwhelmed, busy dentist, it might have so much that it's overkill. And not that that shouldn't be available, but it should be brought up at certain times. Not like, here's this whole software thing that does this, 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 and this. If you can just get them to do one thing consistently, and then it's the thing we're talking about, profit activator number 1. Narrow your focus and select one target market at a time. That, I think, should apply also to what you're selling people. You're a life coach, and you could probably get them to help them with their fitness, with their relationships, with their, spirituality, with, their ability to handle criticism, to self-esteem. I mean, you can, but, there might be 1 or 2 things that if you get those handled first, then they become open to other things. But if you went in and said, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. We drove by a billboard it was on 44th Street around Indian School. And it was Red Wok? Yeah, it was like a restaurant called I've never been there, but it said Red Wok. It says Mexican, American,
Oh, yeah,
Italian,
right.
and Chinese, and I'm like,
Yeah.
boy, I go, we should drive back. I was so far past it. I want to take a picture to select and narrow a single.
Leave anybody out.
So if you go in there and say, okay, what would you like? An enchilada, some spaghetti? I mean, it's like, let me eat one
Whatever you want,
first,
we
and
got
then, But see, I think that's one of the problems.
Yeah, it is a problem.
That's why it takes marketers to fix this shit, because people that are inventors really understand, oh, it does this, and they have good
All
intentions, and
inclusive.
it probably is killer stuff, but it's not killer to someone that like looks at it and just like, and then they drop out.
Is part of the obstacle that they never get the reports set up initially? Is that what it is?
Oh, no, they're all set up. I mean, all you do is a click and point, and it'll show you the report.
Right.
But they don't know what to do with it, and that's why they're dropping off. And I'm going, if I could just talk to these guys,
Well, that's your free
gals,
line.
huh?
Your free line is consulting with them, telling them which reports they need. You have this thing that has
Right.
every report. Your free line is, we'll consult with you, we'll tell you which reports you need to use. That's their perceived value that they got up front that they didn't have to pay for. And then they stick and keep using the thing because they know that they have the reports that they need. So you have to
But there's
Scott.
probably an 80-20 that, there's probably 20% that all the dentists use already. That's 80% that they all use. There's probably an 80-20 already. So if you find that, then I liked your idea, which the rest of it's just an upsell.
Right, it sounds like you offer them too much almost, where they get totally confused, and then you come back to, well, I'll make it easy for you. Let me give you the easy button. I can separate this into 5 different components or something. That's what I'm hearing from you guys. Offer them everything, and then come back and offer them something to make it easier for them.
I think the $64,000 question is, what are they doing when they drop off? Because they've clearly got to have some software running their business. So what, if these guys are losing them to brand X, how's brand X different? What are they doing differently that they're feeling more comfortable? Because I'm presuming that when someone drops off, they're not just going back to a pen and paper.
They're not going back to pen and paper, they're going back to their old software, which has got about 20 reports, which aren't very functional. That
But
came
they're
with
all
their
kind of
software
going back to
company.
the same competitor?
No, there's like about 40 different softwares that a dentist could use. And all of them are very generic, and they all just kind of like, oh, we'll just throw in these reports, and the reports aren't that good.
They're just going back to something more simple.
They're going back to something more simple.
What are they doing with these reports? Like, what's the importance of it? Is it are they record-keeping reports? Are they marketing reports? Are they profitability reports? Are they-
Everything,
Right.
all those things and plus more. So it's like, if you really want to narrow down on a business,
Yeah.
it shows you, just for like referrals, it shows you who referred, your top 5 referrals,
Mhm.
and how much production you got from those top 5 referrals.
Gotcha.
It'll show you that, and it'll show you all these kind of things.
Could you break it down into before unit, during unit, and after unit types of reports that are going to help them, with, do they do marketing reports, or do they do
No.
anything like that? That's not
No,
what that.
it's not making sense.
Okay.
No, they don't do that at all.
Okay.
The smart guys do.
Right.
Well, here's the thing, if you can identify what is like the big win, like
Yeah,
what
that's
is
what I was getting at.
producing data that is so valuable
For what
to them
end?
that once they experience it, they don't want to be without it. See, because with Dean's stuff, once they actually get to that point where he's invested money in them, they actually, the ones that do something with it, and all of a sudden they start receiving that value, they don't want it to stop, because then if they cut it off, they're actually it's like cutting a vein.
That's why I was asking about whether these are like compliance reports or something that they functionally have to do, or are these reports that having this software is going to produce an ROI for them? Is this going to increase their
Yes.
revenue? Is it going to increase their profitability?
Yes.
What is it going to do for them? So let me draw some. Can I do a flipboard, or should I draw on the whiteboard?
We have flip charts somewhere, but I don't know where they are.
Can you see that if I do that over there? Okay, let's do this. So one of the things that we did with the data that I got when I mentioned that we went back to all the people from the first graduating class of Project Cyrus to see what actually happened. In any kind of situation where you have a continuity that is leading to, hopefully, a return on that investment, they're spending money. So the way that it looked for our money-making websites is that you've got we take all the months of the year here. So we start out January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And what we're showing people is the cost of running their money-making website is about spending money on AdWords, on Google AdWords, to bring visitors to the site. That's the fuel that drives it. So people are typically spending $10 or $20 a day on their AdWords budget. So if they're spending $300 a month on their AdWords, after month 1, they're going to have spent $300. Month 2, they're going to have spent $600. Month 3, they're going to have spent $900. So it's going to go all the way like that, all the way across till the end of the year. And at the end of the year, if they're spending $300 a month, they'll have spent $3,600 on their on AdWords for the year. Now, what happens, and when we did these when we did these numbers, what happens is that typically real estate commissions are in the $5,000 to $7,000 or more range. So what happens is that our training program is 12 weeks, 90 days. So at the end of that period, right here, people have spent $300, $600, $900. And if they haven't gotten a result yet, some of them start to panic. They start to think, the only visible numbers that I see are that I'm spending $900. I see that I'm getting prospects. I see that people are building in my autoresponder account, but I haven't done any transactions yet. And what we found was that when I went back to this in month 4, month 5, month 6, typically people will have done their first transaction by now. But what happens is, let's say that it's a $5,000 transaction. Immediately in that first transaction, they're already in profit because they've spent $300, $600, $900, $1,200, but they made $5,000 right here. And then the next month, if they do another one, now they've made $10,000. And the next month they do another one and they've got $15,000. And the ROI on these are like, it goes, like rocket fuel. And by the end of the year, they have, as I said, a minimum of 7, and our high on that first graduating class of 30 people was 34 times ROI. And so if you can look at anything that you're doing, if there's some sort of strategy attached to it, something that they can use these reports to show a definitive, I got this revenue because I'm using this software. And you can go back to your clients that have been using this for a year and show the ROI that they got on the investment of doing this. It's a phenomenal way to illustrate. I created these whole things. It's like an infographic that's a testimonial.
Yeah.
You're showing data that is an incredible evidence of how things actually work. Does that make sense to you guys? I mean, anybody who's doing any kind of continuity thing, that's the kind of thinking that you want to have with people, And then we should show them that it literally pays for itself. I mean, it's literally, they would be crazy to stop doing it.
Yeah, so if you can actually get this sort of business set up like that, it'll change everything. So that whole saying, little hinges swing big doors? That's the little hinge that swings a giant door.
Do you have a printer? Like, is there somebody here I can email that could print that? Question or infographic?
Yeah, I have that printer back there set up on my iPhone, so if you send it to my iPhone, I can print it right to my iPhone.
So let me do
Well,
that.
I'm going to shoot the monkey while you're doing that, right to canvas. Okay.
I knew it.
Didn't make it far enough. And so for people that are listening to this on audio, then
I'll put it up on.
fun.
We'll put it up on. I love marketing too.
If you don't mind, I added that. I have a software that we use for our business too, and it was so overwhelming for me in the beginning. I'm still using maybe 20% of what's available on it right now, truthfully. And I pay every so often for an $800 seminar for them to come in and do a training seminar to train my staff on how to use it. And that could be something that you can offer as an upgrade too. Train them on how to use it.
Yeah, or even if it makes sense to actually send people there just to get them up and running, because once you can get them to stick.
Well,
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with me. Is now that I'm getting used to it, I don't want to give it up because I like it.
Yeah, they train people how to use the software, but they don't know, the dentists don't know what the numbers mean.
Yeah.
And the software company is a software company, and they are engineers.
That's the
See,
problem.
part of this whole, like, I
I'm
mean,
the
it really
brain.
is
I
almost
know
like a
exactly
stick
what it is.
strategy of having, when somebody gets the software, that they shouldn't probably be allowed to maybe install the whole thing right away. That if there's
Yeah, if
one
you go
or
back.
two things that if you had to, if you only got paid if they stick with it, and get integrated into it.
Yeah, see,
what would be those things? What would be the things that would make it completely ridiculous that they wouldn't want to stop? How much is it, by the way? Well, how much is it, I mean, on a monthly basis?
It's $4.95.
Okay, so I mean, that's pretty significant. So, but
Right.
somebody's looking at for, you know, $6,000 over the course of the year.
Right.
What are they going to do? What would they? What kind of ROI do you think somebody could get with this? I mean, if you had to just pick out one thing, is there anything in there that they could get $60,000 in return?
Oh, easily.
Okay, what would you think would be if you went back to your, users who've been using it for, a year or more? What do you think would be the average if you did like I did there and went back and looked? What would you say would be a pretty
average?
typical ROI?
The average, I would say, probably somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000 a year.
Okay, so you're looking at a 18 or 20 times ROI for
Right,
that.
easily.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, see, there's a lot, so the big takeaway here, because, for this first session, because we're almost at the hour, is if you start thinking about your business, like what if the only way that you could ever get paid is if you created value first?
Mhm.
It would really change the way you actually thought about what you were selling. I mean, if there was a law that was passed that said you no longer can sell something in advance without, value, like imagine that you go into a restaurant and you only paid for the meals that you liked. Do you think the quality of food would improve?
Yeah.
All right, we have a special room for people whose phones would go off, just so you know. And, no, see, because I can see that you felt bad about that, so I just wanted
Not
to
bad
kind of
enough.
make you feel even, it's okay. It's okay.
It's been-
If you come again, no,
been
it's your
weeks
first
since I
time.
blushed, so.
You get a free pass. It's like a 12-step group, but after the first, then you start.
Something to you. What's it?
I mean, I'm just messing.
Why
with
is
you.
it when my kids put this on the little pause that I don't hear the phone ring for 3 days, but if I do it, it doesn't work?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called technology, My 11-year-old knows more about that stuff than I do.
I was talking about my 6-year-old, but hey.
Hey, you know what? When we went to the X Prize Foundation, me and Renee, there was the laptop for every child. The guy that started that in Africa, they actually are going into villages, and they literally are. He was telling a story about how they dropped off the laptops in remote villages and in Africa, and they didn't even take them out of the box. They just left the box there for these kids. The laptops were charged in the box. They left them there with a tape, and they gave them to kids who've never seen anything like this in their life. And literally, they have the thing open, and within 3 days, they are, I think that they were using, like, totally effectively, something like 30 different apps on the computers. And like these kids are, so it's like a child's brain knows how to figure stuff out. We just actually think they're much more stupid than they are. And if you don't even give them instructions and you just let them play with it, they actually not only figure out how to turn it on, but actually how to use it. And these are kids that have never had, any sort of exposure to television or anything. It's like, what, it's a trip. So, technology, but when, what's interesting about this generation, though? Think about it. We're going to be like the only generation that actually went from like remembering the turn television dial to faxes to pagers to dialed phones to the internet. It's a trip. It's a total trip.
I had my son, somebody typing on a typewriter, an old school typewriter on TV. My son's like, "Dad, what is that?" And he started laughing.
Yeah, that's funny.
We used to do that to our parents, but when we get it down to us, it's like,
Were you in my typing class? Because me and Pat went to high school together. When I dropped the typewriter on my head, do you remember that? Do you remember that though?
That's the whole problem.
Check this out. So I'm on this chair in a typing class. It's on wheels, and I'm leaning back with the wheels, right? And I'm leaning back, and I'm like, and during that time in school, I was always like high because I had a bong in my locker and everything. And so I had a bad drug problem in high school. Okay. So, and I talked about that publicly, so if this is the first time you heard it, it's not like this is the first time I said that. And so, you know, I was in the front of the class. Remember Stacy Stump?
Yeah.
Whatever her last name is now, because she got married, but nonetheless. So I'm at the front of the class, and so I'm leaning back, and the chair slips out from under me, and I grab this desk, and I'm like in midair, basically with the chair that's not falling, and the whole desk is like, and there's a heavy typewriter, and it hits the ground as this typewriter, bam, it just bounces off my head. And now,
Oh my word.
and I swear to God, I'm not making this up. This is at Dobson High, and the teacher, the typing instructor, was a dwarf. And she was, do you remember her? Remember her? I can't remember her name, but she was super mean. She was, so anyway.
Evil
dwarf. What's that?
Is it how high
And so and she lived in a mushroom. No. Basically, so I get up and I immediately put the chair up, and I'm trying to act cool, I'm so embarrassed, but in my head is pounding, and I'm like, and Stacy's like, "Are you all right? You all right?" Because she's a really sweet girl, and I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like looking at me. She's like, I just see her mouth open and her eyes wide, and I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And all of a sudden, I feel drip, and all this blood just starts coming. Yeah, and I just totally, that was bad. And then in the dwarf teacher screaming to me, like, "You stupid kid! What are you?" I mean, she lost it because she didn't know how to handle the fact that I was injured, so she's freaking out.
Wow.
And that was that's typewriters. That's where my brain goes.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you're delusional.
And that's how you reverse risk and make it easy for people to get started with you. Tying it all back together.
So what we have to end this episode and go to the next one. I think Dave was going to say.
Perfect.
Was there something you're going to say, Dave?
Oh, it's just to create a marketing audit. If you sit down with them, or you can even create one online, that would ask them, a certain number of questions so you can find out what exactly is important to them as far as these reports.
Yeah, I'm the outside guy. I'm trying to get a JV relationship. I don't own the company, so it's kind of
Okay.
I'm dealing with a software engineer, CEO. It's I never dealt with that before, and so it's teaching me a lot of lessons.
Yeah. Scott asked me about it the other day over a glass of wine, and I said we should create a better product and put them out of business. So I guess
I would literally take it. I would offer to not just help them with marketing, is take equity in the company. Say, look, because if you have equity in the company, maybe they're going to treat the whole thing different and let you have, because they're going to need someone to figure this out for them. You can have the greatest tool in the world, but if it's not presented in a way that's not overcoming the complexity and people aren't seeing the value in it, that's why marketers are more important than experts, because you got to sell it first. They're both important. I mean, you want to have a good product, you want to have good messaging, you want to have good usage. I mean, there's a whole series of stuff. But what I would do based on what Dean said is look at least presenting it to the dentist in the before unit, the during unit, and the after unit, because at least for a dentist, that'll make sense. That's more consumable and understandable, because then you're seeing, okay, we've got all these reports that can help you in your before unit, we've got all these that can help you in the during, we've got all these helping after, and you say, okay, what area of your business do you need the most work? Oh, it's client acquisition. Oh, it's retention, and then you can, build everything around that.
Cool.
All right, cool. So that is
Ta-da!
episode 1 of
Tune in next time.
Tune in next time, and wait a week to hear what everyone here is going to hear in 2 minutes.
That's right.
All right.
All right, it's a wrap.